Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here for this Neighborhood Preservation Program Grantees Meeting. It's Tuesday, November 21st. My name is Brad Harrington. I'm the Administrator of Neighborhood Programs for New Jersey Department of Community Affairs, Division of Housing and Community Resources, and the person supervising the NPP for the time being. I will ask all of you, if you haven't already muted, to please mute. And if we have the ability to, we will also do the same so that there is no interruption of our meeting. We have allotted an hour for this. Perhaps we won't need an hour for all this. Okay, our agenda is on screen. There'll be introductions following this. And then after that will be some updates about NPP, followed by a few slides about implementation plan updates, followed by question and answer. So that is our agenda for today. This meeting is being recorded. We expect to make a video available shortly after it's done. I can't promise today, but certainly by next week at the latest. I already mentioned about please muting yourself. Also, for the Q&A, please find the chat function in Teams through which we're doing this meeting today, and type your questions into it. And then we will answer your questions one at a time through the chat function. Or we'll read them and then we'll address them live in this meeting. So here we are introducing, to my right is Wendy Allard. At the end of the table is Susan Catlett. Across the table from me is Chris Hibbs. Hi. And then diagonally across to me is Suvi Shaw. So we are your DCA staff for NPP. I will also mention that this is also the staff of the Neighborhood Revitalization Tax Credit Program. Some of you are NRTC grantees as well, which is to say that we're all very busy right now, but we'll get to that. And I did see somebody put a comment in that you could not hear us. I hope that is not common. Oh, good. Thank you, Nicole. All right. I will then to the next slide. Actually, before I do that, I want to mention that some of you already know Wendy and Susan and Chris, and maybe some of you know Suvi from previous interactions. There will be some changes of assignment, not a lot. So what I'm going to ask is that you please take down the email address that is lower down, npp@dca.nj.gov. It's a general program email address that all of us here have access to and can check multiple times a day. And that way, no email will ever get lost. Not that emails ever get lost, but they certainly will be addressed by emailing that address. Your manager will be in touch with you within the next 2 weeks. So at that time, you can certainly get her or his email address. But in the meantime, and going forward, npp@dca.nj.gov is a reliable email address, and it's a surefire way to get a hold of us. And sometimes we will also communicate through that email address from the NPP team. So please keep that in mind. All right, moving on to the next slide. NPP updates. there was $5 million appropriated in the current state budget fiscal year 2024 for the NPP. That translates into $125,000 per grantee. So in accordance with what NPP has done in past years, we will, or we intend to allocate that and add that to each grant. However, there will be an implementation plan update needed before that happens. And this will be covered in some detail in the upcoming slides. Now, in the meantime, please keep moving with your grant activities and reporting. Each of you that's attending this, whether you're with a municipality or a consultant that's involved with one or more municipalities, has at least one active NPP grant or regular grant, not referring to community capital needs yet or American Rescue Plan grants yet. A good number of you have large amounts of what we call cash on hand, monies that we've advanced, which have not yet been reported as expended through SAGE. So please keep moving with those. It's my understanding that these funds really need to be spent down pretty much in full before we engage in grant amendments tied to implementation plan updates, but we're going to get to that in the upcoming slides. Also, there's reporting that needs to be done through SAGE. Please keep doing it. And if you're behind on any, before we come knocking and asking you to catch up, it'd be good if you did catch up. As I said, your program managers will be in touch with you within the next 2 weeks. And one of the things that they will cover with you is if you are on schedule with reporting or not. And so just a reminder to please do your reporting. DCA's NPP staff, the fine folks in this room, will work with you regarding SAGE, which is our vehicle for applying for funds when the time comes and for grant administration. And we want you to become a little bit more at ease in using it. And all the people in this room have a really good amount of expertise in using SAGE, and we will be happy to work with you to help you become better users of it. Not afraid of it either, because it's not the newest technology. So it's not going to be, in my opinion, the hardest thing to figure out. So we'll work with you to do your grant work through SAGE, advance expensing, reporting, etc.
I want to mention there's a help function in SAGE too.
Thank you, Chris. And there is a help function on every SAGE page once you're in it. It's a button that says help, and there is a question mark within a red button. And that help function is, sorry to use the cliched phrase, helpful. So please do look for that. Thanks, Chris. All right, I'm going to mention NPP ARP grants. We did award 8 of them, 8 NPP ARP grants. And although it's taken us a little bit of time, we will be doing the grant agreements for them within the next 30 days. So for those 8 of you, and hopefully you know who you are, you will see this coming. And I should mention that notifications come to you or to your SAGE authorized user, which often is the mayor, from an email address called sageadmin@dca.state.nj.us. So please know that, and that it's not junk email, that it's a legitimate email directing that there's something in SAGE that needs attention, namely review and approval of the grant agreement for your NPP ARP award. Now, for those who are on this meeting who did apply for NPP ARP, I'll note that not everyone was eligible to, but I believe it was 10 municipalities that applied and did not receive funding. We will offer to meet with you if you request it to discuss the what and why of why NPP ARP funds were not awarded to you. If you want that meeting, please email that general NPP email address that I referred to earlier in this meeting. Okay, now we're on to DCA staffing. So some of you got to meet Drew Curtis. He was here all too briefly and frankly would have been a great asset to the program, but he was fortunate enough and unfortunate for us to receive a job offer he could not say no to. So we are now again in the process of hiring staff. And I'm going to reiterate that the people in this room are also staff of the NRTC, or Neighborhood Revitalization Tax Credit Program. So we're really quite busy these days, which is to say your continued understanding and patience is requested and appreciated so that we can attend to you and attend to all the other assignments that we have and other grantees that we have in our programs. So in advance, I thank you for your continued understanding and patience. Finally, on this slide, I want to talk about future grantee meetings. We are well aware that under Jeff Bueller, there were monthly meetings through GoToWebinar. And we had hoped to reinstate meetings in some fashion as summer turned fall. That has unfortunately not come to pass, especially with our staffing still not as firm as we had hoped it would be. So we will advise in the new year about the form and format of future grantee meetings. Obviously, we are doing one now, and we can do meetings as we need them. But the focus for me and for my staff here is on grants management, since there's quite a lot that we need to do. We understand that there was quite a lot of information imparted with the prior meetings. I can't promise we'll do it in exactly the same format, but we will strive to have meaningful meetings in the future. So that's where I would like to leave it as far as grantee meetings. And with that, I'm going to move to the next slide and turn to Chris Hibbs to discuss it. Chris.
Good morning. I know you're all interested about the implementation plan updates. And this is really a question of where. This is your opportunity to tell us where you are and where you intend to go with the NPP program. So that is really in the first part, what you want to tell us in this update is your achievements or your accomplishments to date. And the second part of that would be to tell us what you're planning to do in the next program year. Thirdly, it's important to note that if you've had any significant program changes, such as scope of work, such as funding levels, such as program boundaries, that you really need to discuss that in some detail and advise us of how that varies with the initially approved implementation plan. We do expect these plans to be relatively short or relatively long, depending upon your point of view. But I think the idea is for them to be somewhere between 4 and 9 pages as a guideline. I think that's pretty much what we want to say about the update.
Thanks, Chris.
I think.
I'm going to move to the next slide
Did I
and
miss
this,
anything, Brad?
no, you did not. Thank you, Chris. So Wendy will now discuss the outline and the contents of your implementation plan update. Wendy.
Yes, hello, everyone. So I'm just going to talk a little bit more detailed about what should be in your implementation plan. All of these things should be covered clearly and concisely. A cover page with the appropriate logos, state and local partners, a list of your accomplishments, which should include charts, photos, and press. Should also include any lessons learned or changes made to the program since the originally approved implementation plan. It should include the stakeholder engagement process and outcomes, and that should have your community, your NPP district team, and any other stakeholders information in that section. You should also include the needs, goals, and expectations for 2024, highlight anything new or different, and how you measure success. You'll also include a detailed budget, which should be labeled 2024, as the screen says. And any boundary changes that are being made, you should include a new map and a rationale for those changes. I kind of went through this fairly quickly, but remember this PowerPoint document is going to be sent to you, so you will have that to look back on. Please try to make these items clear to the readers so that we're not looking around too much to find out whether or not you covered the information that's needed. Okay.
Thank you, Wendy. Okay, moving on to the next slide. And Susan will talk about the schedule for implementation plan updates for the upcoming months.
Good morning, everyone. So when people ask you, what did you do on your Christmas vacation? I hope you won't be saying that I did my implementation plan, because you do have some time following the holidays to get it done. We want that draft of your implementation plan to be turned into us, which means emailed to your grant manager by Friday, January 12th. So then we'll take those plans and go through them and evaluate them, and we will make determinations about approval of them by Friday, February 16th. So then we'll communicate with you about the implementation plan update and any tweaks that need to be made. Then the final plan should be complete and turned into us by Wednesday, March the 6th. So then that gives you a little better than a month to get the municipal resolutions that we will also need to sort of sanctify your plan update. So if you work with a partner to implement your neighborhood preservation program, make sure to see that your shared services agreement, if it needs updating and approval, please have that done as well at the board meeting. After all that stuff is done, then the grant amendments will be finalized and advances will be made. And for those who have spent down your funding, if you've already spoken to your grant manager that you wouldn't be quite ready to do it at the end of the year, that'll happen once your funding is spent down. So I think I've covered all of that stuff, Brad, unless you think I've forgotten anything.
You got it all. Thank you.
Katie.
All right. And incredibly, that is the main part of what we needed to say. And so now we will open it for questions and answers.
Participant questions and the DCA staff answers. Question: is there a continued match requirement in the 2024 budget? Answer: the other sources of funds requirement has not changed for the 2024 budget year. The $25,000 municipal match will continue. Question: what is the grant term for fiscal year 2024? Answer: fiscal year 2024 officially started on July 1st and runs through June 30th of 2025. Grant agreements currently have an ending date of December 31st, 2023. Preliminarily, grant agreements may have a similar term date ending in December of 2024. However, the department will ensure that grantees have at least 12 months to expend the available funds. Additionally, many grantees may need extensions to expense out the remaining of this year's funds. This will also affect the term date of next year's grant agreements. Question: when will grantees get the last of their 5% funding? Answer: the last 5% is received after the grantee has expended all of their advanced funds and the implementation plan update has been received.
Question: what is the best way to approve the current year's implementation plan changes? Still through a grant budget amendment? Answer: grantees that wish to adjust their implementation plan in the current year should reach out to their grant manager regarding any changes. Your email should include the justification for your change. An amendment or revision will then be approved by your grant manager. Also, please note that if you are having problems spending down your current year funds, send an email to npp@dca.nj.gov and indicate how you plan on spending out the rest of your funds. Question: if we face challenges spending down funds by the current grant term ending December 31st, 2023, I assume we should formally request an extension. Should we anticipate problems having that approved if we can spend down and complete current deliverables before the fiscal year 24 grant term starts? Answer: if you cannot meet the December 2023 deadline to expend your funds but have a plan to spend your funds in the first quarter of 2024, please reach out to your grant manager to extend the term of your grant. We do not anticipate any problem with this type of adjustment.
Question: are we able to make minor budget revisions in the interim? How quickly can that process work? Answer: yes. Minor budget revisions can be requested at any time. The current time frame for approval is 1 to 2 weeks. Holidays may affect this timeline. Question: in your plan update, you are requesting information on changes to the original approved IP. By this, do you mean the FY23 plan? There is a plan for every year that the NPP districts have had funding. Answer: the update should include any changes since the previous year's implementation plan update. Question: most of us will need amendments as we implement final projects. Am I wrong to assume that we will be able to do that after December 31st, before the final IP for year 4 is approved? Answer: amendments will continue to be approved between December 31st and the final approval of the implementation plan update for the coming year.
Question: is there a percentage of funding that must be spent on residential improvements? Answer: no such requirement currently exists. Question: the NPP ARP grant agreement will be provided 30 days from now. What will be the contract timeframe and will it provide the guidelines? Answer: the contract term for NPP ARP grants is still to be determined, but will provide a minimum of 12 months and a possible maximum of 24 months. American Rescue Plan funds are federal funds that must be fully expended by 2026. Question: will you allow carryover of this year's budget, and if yes, will it be capped? Answer: a small percentage of funds may be allowed to carry over to the next year's funding. Please reach out to your grant manager at npp@dca.nj.gov for additional information. Question: I would like to do line item transfers. Will my program manager be able to help with that? Answer: yes, your grant manager can provide technical assistance regarding revisions to the budget in Sage.
Question: our NPP ARP project is dependent on receiving the funds, or at least an agreement, immediately in order to process a Chapter 159 and be able to spend monies to purchase the land. Could I count on receiving that agreement during this calendar year? Answer: NPP ARP fund agreements will be prepared and released to grantees within 30 days. Question: will updated NPP guidelines be released, specifically for allowable projects and catalyst projects? Answer: not at this time. Question: our Year 4 plan has been prepared since September. If we are ready, can we send it over now? Answer: yes. After you have confirmed that your implementation plan update meets the guidelines provided in this PowerPoint, please email your document to npp@dca.nj.gov. Question: is the plan to bring on some NPP dedicated staff? Answer: yes, NPP staff will be hired.
Question. Regarding NPP ARP, we understand 30 days for agreements. How long is it until the funds are advanced? Answer. Once the agreements are signed and completed, funds will typically be available to be advanced within 2 weeks. State holidays may extend the timeline somewhat. Please note that there will be an additional meeting scheduled regarding NPP ARP fund requirements. Question. What percent of NPP ARP funds will we receive once the agreement is signed? Answer. While historically NPP funds have been advanced at 90%, similar to NRTC, serial advances could be applied to these funds. This has yet to be determined, and you will receive further communications once a decision has been made.
Thank you for listening to this Neighborhood Presentation Program recording. If any of your questions were not answered by this presentation, please email npp@dca.nj.gov. Thank you again for joining us.